CBSE rolls out major change for Class 10 students. Students can now take their board exams twice a year from 2026. The first one is going to be mandatory, the second one optional to improve their marks. Karnataka government issues circular mandating full use of Kannada in all official work. Violators will face disciplinary action. A letter that comes in Kannada has to be replied in Kannada only. Meanwhile, the Bombay High Court rejects plea challenging 2024 Maharashtra Assembly elections over alleged bogus voting. The High Court says petition wasted time of the court. A 30-member UK-US team to assess the F-35 jets stranded at Kerala's Thiruvananthapuram International Airport since the 14th of June. NASA launches Axiom 4 space mission. Indian Air Force test pilot Shubhanshu Shukla becomes the second Indian astronaut to travel to space and the first one to visit the International Space Station. Wayanad on high alert again after a fresh landslip reported in Vellarimala following 24 hours of incessant rainfall. And a cloudburst in Kullu has triggered major floods. At least 3 people have been swept away due to these incessant rainfall and the flash floods. All right then, first up, in that landmark decision, the CBSE has restructured the Class 10th board examination. Students will now have the option to appear for their board exams in 2 phases from next year, 2026. Now, the first phase, to be conducted in February, will be mandatory for all. All students, 10th grade, will have to sit for this examination. The result for these exams will be declared by April, and the second phase is going to take place in May, which will give students an option to improve their performance in up to 3 subjects, including science, mathematics, social science, and languages. The results of the optional second phase will then later be released in the month of June. In the new system, the internal assessments will only be conducted once, streamlining the evaluation process. And whilst the first phase will be mandatory, students will have the option to appear in the second phase to improve their results. And the new policy allows the students to retake board exams. It has raised some concerns amongst schools and parents. With exams scheduled back-to-back, schools worry it will disrupt the academic calendar and make it hard to complete the syllabus. But teachers are also concerned about balancing invigilation with lessons. The May exam could overlap with summer holidays, adding to the challenges of scheduling. And whilst the policy aims to ease student stress, its impact is still being weighed. Anubha Srivastava Sahai, the president of India White Parents Association, was earlier with us on News 9. Listen in to what they had to say.
Students who will be getting the result after maybe in the month of June. So see, in Maharashtra, I would say there are other states also. There are junior colleges where the students take admission. Many students, more than 50% students take admission in junior college, and the admission process begins in the month of May onwards. So if the results are not declared for CBSE board students, this is only for CBSE. It is not for ICSE and other boards and state boards. So the CBSE students will be left behind, and the state boards students will apply for the admission. So I think CBSE students will definitely suffer. They may not get admission in some of the schools in Maharashtra, and in other states also. I think Andhra Pradesh and other states, they also have this system where the students take admission in some other schools and colleges, junior college. So all these things, the government, I don't know why they have not consulted the stakeholders. Many parents were not aware about this criteria until unless you will involve schools and you will get opinion from each and every school, CBSE school, because we are concerned about CBSE board. Until unless you will involve each and every school and their principal and management, and as well as the parents and students, how are you going to get the opinion? They have given open opinion for all the stakeholders.
Well, the impact at this point in time still being weighed in. Voucher News 9 to bring you all the latest. All right, then shifting our focus here in a strong push to uphold Kannada's primacy in administration, the Karnataka government has issued a strict directive mandating the use of Kannada in all official communication and notings. Take a look at this. Chief Secretary Shalini Rajneesh issued a circular warning that files not written in Kannada will be returned back and disciplinary action will or may follow. The order applies to all state government offices and agencies operating within Karnataka. It aims to strengthen the role of the state's official language in governance and ensure consistency across departments. And the move comes amid already rising calls for preserving and promoting Kannada in public offices, especially as concerns grow over the increasing use of English and Hindi in administrative correspondence. A big move. Karnataka government now making the use of Kannada mandatory for all bureaucratic and official purposes. Moving on to a story that we've been reporting from Kerala. Now a 30-member expert team from Britain and the United States will be flown in to assess the situation surrounding the grounded F-35 fighter jet that's been stranded in Kerala since the 14th of June. British defense sources have stated that the aircraft is currently unsafe to fly due to malfunction in its hydraulic system. The UK Ministry of Defence is considering airlifting the aircraft back to Britain using military cargo plane if the issue cannot be resolved on site. Meanwhile, the stranded F-35 remains exposed to harsh weather conditions, parked in an open section of the airport under constant watch, needless to say, by British personnel. Authorities have also confirmed that a rental fee will be paid to utilize airport facilities during the F-35 aircraft's stranded stay in Kerala. Moving on, in a major blow to the opposition in Maharashtra, the Bombay High Court has dismissed a plea alleging bogus voting in the 2024 State Assembly elections. Now, the petition filed by one Chetan Ahire claimed over 75 lakh votes were polled after the official deadline of 6 p.m. and alleged discrepancies in nearly 95 seats where the votes polled did not match the votes that were counted. Appearing for the petitioner, Advocate Prakash Ambedkar argued that the last-minute surge in votes lacked transparency and the returning officers failed to follow the Election Commission's guidelines. But a division bench of Justices Girish Kulkarni and RF Doctor wasn't convinced. The judges slammed the petition, calling it a waste of judicial time. Maharashtra polls his alleged bogus voting petition in the Bombay High Court, now rejected by that division bench. Here's your monsoon tracker, and let's begin with the flood fury that's been impacting Gujarat. Heavy rains in South Gujarat has thrown life out of gear, especially in Surat, where torrential rain since the night of 22nd of June has triggered flooding, disrupted traffic, and prompted emergency rescue services. Several low-lying areas waterlogged, forcing the administration to step in for relief and rescue. Bus services from Surat Central bus station have been temporarily suspended. Drivers have been warned to avoid waterlogged areas. In commercial areas like Baracha and Adajan, water entered the basement shops, resulting in heavy losses for the traders. People having to wade through chest-deep water in various areas. Visuals from Surat, the urban areas, the rural areas, it's all been inundated at this point in time.
3 दिन से अभी यहाँ पे पानी भरा हुआ है और जब पानी आया तो सूरत में आप देख सकते हो कि सिटी में शहर में बहुत सारा पानी यानी बारिश गिरा था तो उस हिसाब से भी पानी यहाँ पे भर चुका है और ऊपरवास में अगर हम देखो तो बारडोले में भी 5 इंच पानी भरा है तो वो खाड़ी में आके यहाँ पे अंदर घुस जाता है।
समस्या इतनी हो रही है कि कोई घर से बाहर नहीं निकलना चाहते हैं क्योंकि पानी में अभी बोले कि वो कुछ स्नैक्स वो सब निकलते इसलिए सब डर रहे हैं और हम अपनी बच्ची के लिए दूध और सब्जी के लिए यहाँ तक आना पड़ रहा है। गाड़ी उतना दूर लंबा रखा है और 2 दिन से हम जॉब पे भी नहीं जा रहे।
Meanwhile, a cloud burst struck Himachal Pradesh's Kullu district, triggering a sudden flash flood in the region. Now, the incident took place in the scenic Sainj Valley, where a massive surge of water was captured on video by some locals present at the site. The cloudburst occurred between the mountains and brought with it heavy debris and fallen trees, sweeping them downstream with great force. The floodwater even entered an NHPC storage facility, and homes situated near the banks have also been affected. The IMD had already issued an orange alert for various districts, including Kullu, Shimla, Solan, Una, Bilaspur, Hamirpur, Chamba, Kangra, Sirmaur and Mandi, predicting heavy to very heavy rainfall at these isolated locations. 3 people that have been swept away due to the flash floods in Kullu.
कि हर तरफ भारी बारिश के कारण बहुत ज्यादा नुकसान हो गया है और सैंज खड़ तो बहुत ऊपर तक आ गई है। इसलिए मैं आपके माध्यम से क्षेत्र की जनता से भी आह्वान करना चाहूंगा कि नदी नालों के पास ना जाएं और बिल्कुल सावधानी बरतें। और साथ में प्रशासन को भी कहना चाहूंगा मैं कि आप तुरंत मुस्तैदी के साथ काम करें, क्योंकि सैंज से जो आ रहा है कि सैंज में जो त्रासदी पहले आई थी उससे भी बढ़ करके डैम भी ओवरफ्लो हो गया है और नदी में भी बहुत ज्यादा जलस्तर बढ़ गया है। कीर्तन घाटी में होनगाड़ के पास बादल फटा है और वहां पर भी पूरा कीर्तन का रास्ता क्षतिग्रस्त हो गया है और गड़सा के अंदर भी मनिहार के पास पुल बहने की सूचना मिल रही है और इस तरह से पूरे इलाके के अंदर भारी बारिश के कारण मुझे लग रहा है कि बहुत ज्यादा नुकसान हुआ है। प्रशासन से ये आह्वान करना चाहूंगा, बंजार प्रशासन से आह्वान करना चाहूंगा कि इस स्थिति पर नजर बनाए रखें।
We're shifting our focus to the state of Kerala, where the Mundakkai-Churalmala region of Kerala's Wayanad, which bore the brunt of last year's landslide tragedy that claimed over 200 lives, is once again on high alert. A landslip has been reported in Bellarimala, following heavy rains that lashed the region over the past 24 hours. And this is the same area that witnessed the devastating landslide last year, sparking concerns amongst the residents. The river flowing through the region has also seen a significant rise in its water level, intensifying the risk of flooding. And in response, the Kerala State Disaster Management Authority has barred entry into marked no-go zones and has begun evacuating workers and residents from vulnerable locations. Whilst no fresh landslides have been reported in the region, the State Disaster Management Authority has urged people to remain extremely cautious and strictly avoid restricted areas. The memories of last year's Mundakkai landslides still fresh. Authorities say they're closely monitoring the situation and are prepared to act swiftly if the conditions worsen. Meanwhile, in Idukki, a dramatic rescue unfolded after a tourist jeep, which you can see on your screens, was caught in a swollen river at Kalatupara. This is in Upputhara. Thanks to the swift action of the local residents, all 6 tourists were safely rescued using ropes. Fortunately, no injuries were reported, and as heavy rains continue to batter various parts of Idukki, the district administration has declared holiday for educational institutions. The order covers Kendriya Vidyalayas, the Anganwadi institutions, the tuition centers, the madrasas and various training institutes. In addition, night travel on the gap road connecting Kochi and Dhanushkodi has been suspended due to a persistent risk of landslips along both sides of the stretch. Well, a red letter day for the entire world, but needless to say, India's own Indian Air Force test pilot Shubhanshu Shukla, because as the Axiom 4 mission successfully lifted off today, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla is on path to create history. As the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft separated, Shukla, who is designated pilot for this mission, confirmed the separation and hailed the mission for paving a new path for India's space exploration. Speaking to Mission Control, Shukla stated that the mission is not only the start of his journey to the International Space Station, but the start of India's space program as well. Parents of Shubhanshu Shukla watching on from the Nehru Planetarium in Bengaluru as the Axiom 4 mission lift off earlier in the day. Listen in to what Shubhanshu Shukla himself had to say from the Dragon capsule.
नमस्कार मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, वाटर राइड 40 साल बाद हम वापस अंतरिक्ष में पहुंच गए हैं और कमाल की राइड थी। इस समय हम 7.5 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड की रफ्तार से पृथ्वी के चारों तरफ घूम रहे हैं और मेरे कंधे पे मेरे साथ मेरा तिरंगा है, जो मुझे बता रहा है कि नहीं हूँ, मैं आप सबके साथ हूँ। ये मेरी इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन तक की जर्नी की शुरुआत नहीं है, ये भारत के ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की शुरुआत है और मैं चाहता हूं कि आप सभी देशवासी इस यात्रा का हिस्सा बने। आपका भी सीना दिल से चौड़ा होना चाहिए, आप भी उतना ही एक्साइटमेंट दिखाइए। आइए हम सब मिलकर भारत के इस ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की जर्नी की शुरुआत करें। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
And we'll take a look at this. United States' President Donald Trump has once again said that he was the one who stopped the potential nuclear war between India and Pakistan. This time, speaking at The Hague during the NATO Summit, Trump said a series of tough trade-linked phone calls with both sides is what cooled tempers and stopped the escalation between India and Pakistan.
People would have any idea Vladimir Putin has been more difficult. Frankly, I had some problems with Zelensky. You may have read about him. And it's been more difficult than other wars. I mean, look, we just ended a war in 12 days that was simmering for 30 years, frankly. We ended Rwanda and the Congo. It's coming to sign the documents. We've already signed basic documents, but they're coming, I think, to the White House on Friday. We ended Serbia was going to go at it. But maybe the most important of all, India and Pakistan. And that wasn't whether or not they may someday have nukes like we're talking about in the Middle East, like we're talking about with Israel and Iran. This is they have nuclear weapons. I ended that with a series of phone calls on trade. I said, look, if you're going to go fighting each other, it was getting very bad. You know how bad that last attack was. It was really bad. If you're going to go fighting each other, we're not doing any trade deal. No, you have to do a trade deal. I said, we're not doing any trade deal. And in fact, I had the general, who was very impressive. The general from Pakistan was in my office last week. You know, Prime Minister Modi is a great friend of mine. He's a great gentleman. He's a great man. And I got them to reason. I said, we're not doing a trade deal if you're going to fight. And if you're going to fight each other, we're not doing a trade deal. And you know what? They said, no, I want to do the trade deal. We stopped the nuclear work.
Well, even as that comment now is going to be digested in various newsrooms across the world, a new report suggests that Pakistan may be secretly developing a nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missile, an ICBM with a nuclear warhead that could potentially reach the United States. Now take a look at this. According to U.S. intelligence, cited in Foreign Affairs, this move, if proven, would shift Pakistan into a dangerous new category, that of a nuclear adversary joining the ranks of Russia, China and North Korea. So far, Islamabad has maintained that its nuclear program is India-focused, aimed at deterrence. But developing an ICBM capable of striking targets beyond 5,500 kilometers signals a drastic policy shift. Currently, Pakistan has no ICBMs in its arsenal. Its longest range missile, the Shaheen 3rd, tested in 2022, has a range of 2,700 kilometers only, enough to target most of India, but not the US. Analysts suggest Pakistan may be pursuing this capability to deter American intervention in the event of a regional conflict or to protect its nuclear assets from preemptive US strikes. The US has already imposed sanctions on Pakistan's long-range missile program. In 2023, the National Development Complex and 3 affiliated firms were blacklisted, with US companies barred from engaging with them. And if Pakistan does manage to build a nuclear-capable ICBM, Washington officials warn that ties between the two countries will enter a new and dangerous phase. But circling back to Donald Trump's press conference at the end and at the close of the high-stakes NATO summit, where US President Donald Trump addressed the press, striking a confident note about the progress that was made at the NATO summit. Warnings about what may come next were also offered. Donald Trump said both Israel and Iran are tired and satisfied for now, but warned that the conflict could soon reignite. He also claimed US intelligence confirms Iranian nuclear sites were obliterated in the recent strikes, but stressed he isn't letting up pressure on Tehran. Donald Trump also hinted at the possible talks with Iran as soon as next week, and even as he questioned Putin's ambitions beyond Ukraine. Let's first listen in to what Donald Trump had to say at the conclusion of the NATO summit.
And they're both tired, exhausted. They fought very, very hard and very viciously, very violently. And they were both satisfied to go home and get out. And can it start again? I guess someday it can. It could maybe start soon. You know, Iran has a huge advantage. They have great oil, and they can do things. I don't see them getting back involved in the nuclear business anymore. I think they've had it. They've been at it for 20 years, and I don't see that happening either. Now, if it does, we're always there. It won't be me. It'll be somebody else, but we're there. We'll have to do something about it. They just had a war. The war was fought. They fought it bravely. I'm not giving up. They're in the oil business. I mean, I could stop it if I wanted. I could sell China the oil myself. I don't want to do that. They're going to need money to put that country back into shape. We want to see that happen.
Well, US President Donald Trump compared US strikes in Iran to the Second World War bombings in Japan's Hiroshima and Nagasaki and said that the US strikes helped Iran and Israel reach a swift solution amid their attacks on each other.
Had we not succeeded with that hit ended the war. That hit ended the war. I don't want to use an example of Hiroshima. I don't want to use an example of Nagasaki. But that was essentially the same thing. That ended that war. This ended that with the war. If we didn't take that out, they'd be fighting right now.
Well, Pete Hegseth, the U.S. Defense Secretary, flanking the U.S. President, echoed the sentiment, calling the mission a tactical success and slamming critics as undermining U.S. military personnel.
Given the 30,000 pounds of explosives and capability of those munitions, it was devastation underneath Fordo. And the amount of munitions, 6 per location, any assessment that tells you it was something otherwise is speculating with other motives. And we know that because when you actually look at the report, by the way, it was a top secret report, it was preliminary, it was low confidence, all right, so this isn't, you make assessments based on what you know.
And it said it could be very devastating, very serious.
Moderate to severe, and we believe far more likely severe and obliterated. So this is a political motive here.
Is there a leak investigation?
Of course, we're doing a leak investigation with the FBI right now because this information is for internal purposes, battle damage assessments.
Senator Marco Rubio, the top statesman when it comes to foreign affairs of the United States, sitting right next to Pete Hegseth, went a step further, saying Iran's uranium conversion facility is no longer visible on the satellite maps.
The conversion facility, which you can't do a nuclear weapon without a conversion facility. We can't even find where it is, where it used to be on the map. You can't even find where it used to be because the whole thing is just blackened out. It's gone.
It's wiped out.
It's wiped out. Then we dropped 12 of the strongest bombs on the planet right down the hole in 2 places. Everything underneath that mountain is in bad shape. And I refer you to the statement of the IAEA, Mr. Grossi. You know what he said? He said there was Iran, the way it looked the day before the attack, and what their nuclear program looks like now. 2 very different things. They are way behind where they were just 7 days ago.
Well, now NATO leaders endorsed a big new defense spending target at an alliance summit in The Hague on Wednesday, as demanded by U.S. President Donald Trump. Fiona Jones from the Reuters explains some key points about this new target.
War is always changing as technology advances, and in a bid to increase their country's defence capabilities, NATO leaders have endorsed a big new spending target at a summit in The Hague. NATO members will aim to spend 5% of their economic output on defence, a big increase on the current goal of 2% agreed at a 2014 summit. That's 3.5% of their GDP on core defence such as troops and weapons, and 1.5% on broader defence and security-related investments such as cybersecurity, protecting energy pipelines and adapting infrastructure for military vehicles. Hitting these targets could eventually mean spending hundreds of billions of dollars more a year. Doubling down on cyber investment is one of the ways to improve the alliance's defence. That's according to Benjamin Jensen, an international relations and security specialist.
So I think the biggest challenge for NATO on the horizon is the intersection of the low cost of shooting waves and waves of long-range attack drones alongside rapid targeting adjustment using AI and offensive cyber. Russia has proven it will attack NATO member states with cyber any time of the day.
And money could be used strategically. Due to technology, he said, low-cost systems like $1,000 drones can now destroy high-cost assets like planes.
In the ideal case, we would have entire NATO drone brigades like what we see in actually Ukraine, but maybe manned by a multinational battalion or battle group.
Moscow's continued war in Ukraine is one reason, along with concerns about a possible future threat from Russia. That's alongside pressure from US President Donald Trump to boost investment. Europe's preparing for the possibility that Washington will withdraw some of its troops and capabilities. Targets are expected to be met in 2035, but can also be adjusted when they're reviewed in 2029.
And we'll take a look at this. Black smoke, gunshots and chaos right on the streets of Kenya. Because what began as an anniversary protest has now escalated into violent clashes in multiple cities, including the capital, Nairobi. Demonstrators poured into the streets, marking 1 year since last year's deadly unrest. Tear gas filling up the air, gunshots being heard, and hospitals now treating at least 10 gunshot victims. Demonstrators carried posters calling for President William Ruto to step down after one term, whilst the government has moved to ban live coverage of the protests and even pulled a major news channel off air. Streets of Kenya, specifically Nairobi, Mombasa, plunging into chaos. At least 10 people being treated for gunshot wounds. The 1 year anniversary of the deadly protests that similarly had gripped the nation last year. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Newscast. Top development continues on the other side. Keep it with News 9.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
What began as a day of celebration turned into a tragedy.